So in this video, we'll pick up where we left with creating a small enclosure based on side sections or side profiles with Shefa Front Panel Designer. And just to quickly show you, this is the box we created in the previous video. I just took it apart a little bit. But basically a box with the traditional housing concept with Shefa is based on a number of panels which are held together by profiles like these and like that. And then you have a screw kit that keeps it all together. And the way we we determine how these panels should be formed, the dimensions, where the holes goes, etc., comes from the Shefa Housing Manual, which is something you can download from their website. But the much easier way to go is, of course, to use the scripts that we are demonstrating in these videos. And in the previous video, you saw how we created these scripts. And now we'll see how can we create a rack unit using this script. So if we go to start the script menu again, run the Shefa Housings script using still housings with side profiles and click OK. We'll now take a look at some of the settings that can create a radically different type of enclosure than this one, namely a rack unit. And the main point is that we click the checkbox, make it a rack unit. And what that means is really that it's overriding the width of the box. So the width that is currently, 100 millimeters, will now be fixed by the application to fit into a 19-inch rack. And also we'll select side section number 1 because rack units, they are something like 44.5 millimeters high at most. So if I select that type of side section, I should get a proper 1-unit rack enclosure. In this case, I would also like to make it a different color. So I'm now going to select black as the color of my panels. And to go with that, I should also select the black screw kit and profile kit. So these housing profiles, which are currently silver or natural aluminum, should be black instead if I want to carry through the black color all the way. Okay, but at first I think I'll just deselect that and then I'll make a test run and press create. So what we see when I do this test run is that you can see Front Panel Designer has created a panel. It has rack mounting holes on the sides and it looks fine to me. This is how I want it. So I go back to the scripting application. I run it again like that. Maybe I want to see guide engravings. Do you remember from the previous videos that you could have engravings that clearly show how on the behind the panel the profiles extend, and that's very useful if you want to place any type of cutout or a printed circuit board there, etc. So I'll add guide engravings again, and then I'll also add something called housing profiles. Housing profiles will help to keep the whole thing nicely together. So when I press create here, you'll see that I now get a new panel. And if we take a closer look at this panel, let me just zoom in here at the end. First of all, now you can easily see how important it is to see where the side profile is located on the panel, because when I want to place anything, components or plugs or whatever, I really need to know if I'm colliding with the side profile behind. It's also nice that I can see how my top and bottom panels are positioned, and this is all what the guide engravings give you. Then one new thing is that we have placed a housing bracket, and a housing bracket, let me just find a housing bracket. Okay, so we have a housing bracket right here, and so a housing bracket is this small thingy. It has a 3 millimeter hole on that side and that side, and now you can probably imagine that a housing bracket sitting here is supposed to hold the front panel side together with the top panel, and that becomes increasingly important when you get a long unit like this one, that you have multiple points to fix it together. So that's the point of that part of it. Okay, so let's go back to the script, and then let's just say that we are now ready to order this. We'll select a black kit. We want the housing brackets. We disable the guide engravings, and we disable a test run. So now we will create all the panels necessary. And there we go. The ordering application is booting up. As you can see, we have side profiles ordered in black anodized. We have an assembly kit, and we have a package of 8 housing profiles coming along with this. So let's see how it looks 14 days after you place this order. So 14 days later, you get this, a laminated cardboard with all your aluminum panels on, and then you get also a kit of housing profiles as you ordered, and of course a screw kit, which is necessary to keep all of this together. So let's just fast forward through the assembly and see how the final box looks. Cool, so here it is, my rack unit, like that. But as I said, if you look here at the close-up, these sides, I don't know how easy it is to see, but you can see they are sort of flexible because I didn't mount the housing brackets yet, and they are right here. So let's take a look at how they should actually be fitted into this enclosure. So you can see the housing brackets are supposed to sit between a hole like this and then the back side here. So this is what I'm going to do now. All right, so now I have housing profiles on the back side, as you can see, and it really helps a lot. So now everything is better kept together like this, but I still miss them on the front. And the reason why I didn't put them there yet is because we're using a special concept. If I just take this out, you can see the top and the bottom are now affixed to the back side, like that. So, okay, what I need you to notice is that here we have a stud placed. That's a glued bolt in the aluminum. You can see how it's flush with the surface of the aluminum, and it's glued into a small cavity which is made by Shefa. And what I want is to place a housing bracket over this bolt. And it's kind of a bad idea, although the thread is actually fitting, to just take a housing profile and do like that, because I want the housing profile to face the top and the bottom sides. So what I need to do is to take a 3mm drill and extend the hole in the housing profile, and then use a nut from top instead. And that's what I'm doing now. There's one thing to note when you use housing profiles in this way, and that is be careful not to tighten this nut too heavily. I have experienced that if you do that, and if the bolt is mounted maybe a little bit lower in the aluminum panel than you really ideally preferred, then it will pull out the bolt from the aluminum. It's actually possible that, or it's practically possible that this happens. But be again warned that this idea of using housing brackets in this way mounted on studs is not something Shefa is necessarily endorsing. It's an idea that I got myself. So why would I get that idea anyway? Well, the reason is, when you have a panel like this, you won't like to spoil the front face of the box with a lot of screws. It's sort of enough that you already have 2 screws in each side. Why would you like to have another 2 screws 2 other places on the panel? So this is why for the front of such panels, you will find that my scripts will be using or placing bolts instead by this principle. But the point is that now that I have profiles, housing profiles there, and on the other side, and voila, there you got a nice 80 millimeter deep 1 unit rack enclosure based on Sheaffer side profiles. Black side profiles, black screw kit on the front, using housing brackets mounted on studs on the front to disclose the or to hide the screw holes. On the back we see screw holes. And all that is left to do now is to place cutouts for your buttons, printed circuit boards, or whatever you want here on the front. And on the back as well, of course. There may be one final thing I would like to just highlight, because of course the housing brackets are placed in positions that are calculated like based on the width of the panel and automatically placed. They may collide with your ideal position of something. So that means you may have to move it, but that's also really easy. So if we go back to Front Panel Designer and see how you can do this, you now do a manual adjustment. So let's say that we look at the front panel here, and you wanted to move the housing profiles a bit to the side. What you can do is you hold the shift key down on your laptop, and then you press the arrow keys a number of times to the side that you want. You need to count it. So let's say I think it moves then like 5 millimeters each time. So if I want to move it 25 millimeters to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, holding down the shift key. So what I need to do now is to find the right hole on the top and the bottom panel to make it match. So if I take the top panel, I can decide, because there's no orientation on this one. So I take this hole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the bottom panel, it's now the top, because the bottom panel will be under like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have corrected or moved the hole for the housing bracket 25 millimeters to the left on the bottom panel, the top panel, and on the front to accommodate whatever I need to accommodate, like the position, my ideal position of elements on that side. All right, that's it. So that was housings, Sheaffer housings based on side profiles. The highest profile, 56 millimeter, the lower profile fitting for a rack unit, 42 millimeters. And next up will be videos about making enclosures with housing profiles, which gives you an unlimited arbitrary height of your boxes.